Hello, grade sevens. We're just about there. This is our last week of school, and we have two more lessons that we have to get done. So let's get right to it, and let's bring this up. Get our PowerPoint going, and make that full screen. Oh, there we go. Interpreting circle graphs. All right. So our last unit is circle graphs, and the first part of that is how do we interpret circle graphs. So what will you know when you're done this? So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to identify the title, sector label, and legend of a circle graph, recognize that data on a circle graph is reported as a percent of the total, where the sum of all of those percents is 100%, and interpret a given circle graph in order to answer some specific questions, and translate those percentages of a circle graph into quantities in order to solve a problem. All right, circle graphs. A circle graph shows information as parts of a whole. So it's kind of like a fraction, and a circle graph is kind of like the whole, and each of the segments in the circle graph is like a fractional portion of that. A circle graph is divided into sections called sectors. Each sector represents a percentage of the entire circle. All the sectors in the circle graph add up to 100%, which is the whole circle. I would copy this slide down. So just push pause, copy this slide down. And once you're done that, just start the video again. Okay. Important parts of a circle graph. So here's our circle graph drawn over on the side here. Provinces and territories of ski racers. So the title, which is this part right here of our circle graph, the title describes the circle graph more specifically and describes the sectors as parts of the whole group. Circle graph requires a title. A sector. Each sector is a different color. Sectors are often different sizes. Sectors are labeled with categories and percents. All of those percents of your sectors have to add up to 100%. So each of these different colored little triangles within the circle graph, those are all our sectors. And finally, a legend. If this category is not labeled directly on the graph needs a legend. The legend matches the color on the graph to its category. So in this case, it has a legend on the side right here, but you could have had little arrows peeling off from your circle graph that say what the different segments are, what the different segments mean. I'd pause the video for a moment and copy this slide down. Okay, reading circle graphs. So here's an example. I read a news article about a youth ski competition at the Wapiti Nordic Ski Club. Nordic ski racers across Canada joined the competition. The news article said 150 ski racers were in the competition. The circle graph shows the percentage of ski racers from different Canadian provinces and territories. I wonder how many ski racers there are from Alberta. So we know what the percentages are, but we would have to we'd have to do a little calculating to figure out how many ski racers are from Alberta. So here are some questions that we could answer based on this circle graph. So which province or territory has the most competitors in the ski race, and how do you know? Well, I can see that there's one segment that looks really, really big. The largest sector represents the largest percentage of competitors. The largest sector is Alberta, which is really big, which has 52% of the competitors. Which province or territory has the fewest competitors, and how do you know? So there's one that's really small, looks like 2%. I think that one's Manitoba. So the smallest sector represents the smallest percentage of competitors. The smallest sector is Manitoba with 2% of the competitors. What percentage of competitors are from Saskatchewan? Well, we can look and we can see Saskatchewan is the pink block, and I can see there is no percentage represented in the pink block. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of calculating. So I know that all of the sectors have to add up to 100. So I can add the percentages of the sectors that have been given. So 52%, let's bring the mouse over here, 52% plus 24 plus 2 plus 8 gives me a total of 86. And then I subtract that number from 100, because 100% is the whole. I subtract 86% and it leaves me with 14%. So I know that 14% of the competitors are from Saskatchewan. Here's a couple more questions. Which province or territory has about a quarter of the competitors? Well, I guess you have to know what percent is the same as a quarter. And if you think of a quarter as part of a dollar and a dollar has 100 pennies, how much is a quarter? It's 25 cents. One of those segments look like 25. I know there's one that's pretty close. It says 1/4 is equal to 25%. British Columbia has 24%, which is very close. So I would say British Columbia has about a quarter of the competitors. And it says together which two provinces have about 3/4 of the competitors. So 3/4 is 75%. And if we add Alberta and British Columbia together, that 52 plus 24, we get 76%, which is very close to 75. So I'd say 3/4 of the competitors come from Alberta and British Columbia. Sorry, not Saskatchewan. All right, so here's something for you to try. So here's three questions based on this graph for you to give a try to. I'd say pause the video and just jot down your answers on a piece of scrap paper or something, and then we'll come back and we'll take it up. Okay, so this is a circle graph shows the type of sandwiches sold at a ski club cafeteria in one day. What type of sandwich is most popular? How do you know? Well, the most popular sandwich is obviously going to be the biggest section. The biggest section is this one here, which correlates to that one there, which is ham. And I know this because that sector is the largest sector. What type of sandwich is the least popular? Well, it looks like this little section here is the least popular. So that's tuna, and yep, that's tuna. And I know that because it's the smallest sector. What percentages of customers chose tuna sandwiches? Keep in mind, all the sectors must add up to 100. Add the percentages of the given sectors. So 26 plus 42 plus 10 plus 18 is 96%. Subtract that from 100, and I get 4. So 4% of the customers chose tuna sandwiches. Here's a couple more questions for you to try. So pause the video and just jot down your answers to these questions. Okay, what type of sandwich did about a quarter of the customers choose? 1/4 is about 25%, and the sandwich closest to this percentage is, it looks like this pink one here, that's 26%, that's chicken. What type of sandwich did about 1/10 of the customers choose? 1/10 is about 10%. And that one is egg. The sandwich closest percentage is egg. You can see that this is not massively difficult work. All right, changing the percentages to quantities on a circle graph. So this brings us back to that original question about the circle graph showing the percentages of ski racers from different Canadian provinces, and it says 150 ski racers participated in the competition. That knowing how many participated in the competition is vitally important to being able to figure out how many were from each province. So how many ski racers are from Alberta? So step one, find the categories percentage in the graph. Alberta is this color is represented here, so I can see that it is 52%. Step two, convert the percent to a decimal. So to convert 52% to a decimal, you do it as a fraction out of 100, and then divide the numerator by the denominator, and that converts the fraction to a decimal. So 52% is the same as saying 52 out of 100, which is, if we do the division, is 0.52. And then it says step three, multiply the decimal that we calculated before, so that's 0.52, by the total number of participants, or the total number. So multiply 0.52 by the total number of ski racers, which is 150. So 0.52 times 150 gives me 78. Would it be important to make sure I round to the nearest whole number? I would probably say so, because if we had 77.4% or 77.6% of the racer, 77.6 racers are from Alberta, I'm really worried about that 0.6 of a racer. And then it says, lastly, write it as a sentence. There are 78 racers from Alberta. All right, so here's one for you to try. So this circle graph shows the type of sandwiches sold in the cafeteria in one day. The cafeteria sold 50 sandwiches for the day. Here's the graph. How many ham sandwiches did the cafeteria sell? Oh, I'll drop in the steps here so that you've got a little bit of something to work with. I would probably copy this whole thing down and fill it in as well if you can. Okay, so step one, find the categories percentage. So I'm looking for ham sandwiches, ham sandwiches. Ham sandwiches are this dark color here, this dark brown, that's that one, so that's 42%. Write the percent as a fraction out of 100, divide the numerator by the denominator, and convert the fraction to a decimal. So I've got 42% is equal to 42 out of 100, which is equal to 0.42, or sorry, 0.42. Multiply the decimal by the total. So multiply 0.42 by the total number of sandwiches, which it says up at the top is 50. So 0.42 times 50 is 21. Right as a sentence, the cafeteria sold 21 ham sandwiches. Once again, you can see that this isn't the most complicated or difficult math to do. Hopefully this is making sense to you and you're following along. All right, so here's the summary. A circle graph shows parts of a whole. The size of a sector shows the relative amounts of items. To find the number of items in a sector, convert the percent to a decimal and multiply by the total number of data values represented by the circle graph. There are a couple of homework pages for you to do. The interpreting circle graphs, part 1 and part 2 for the next 2 days. So feel free to work on those and the keys will come up over the next couple of days. And I will talk to you again soon. All right, let's stop the share and you guys have a great rest of your day.